everyone and welcome to Uz Report World News Broadcasting with me, Davron Jumaev. Waterways Technologies has announced the signing of a contract for its largest ever contract, and it is to be the company completed a very successful implementation of a similar project in Uzbekistan in 2019, Waterways said in a press release. It added the Waterways solution deploys fully automated drip irrigation technology across a field of 1,200 hectares of cotton and includes 4 reservoirs, totaling 141,000 cubic meters for water security and sedimentation of silt fed by water channels. Waterways will provide assistance implementing and optimizing the technology in order to improve the yield and output of the farm. Uzbekistan and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations have inked a $17 million cooperation program for 2021-2025. A new key document is to serve as a guide for further FAO activities in Uzbekistan. The program aims at supporting the Uzbek government in achieving its national strategic priorities related to the transformation of the food system. The main directions are inclusive development of human capital leading to health, well-being and sustainable prosperity. Various projects worth over $500,000 are to be implemented in Uzbekistan until 2023, including the development of the potato industry and the production of rice crops. In January this year, FAO handed over 14 greenhouses to owners of homesteads in the Kamashi district of Kashkaria region in Uzbekistan. Air Lease Corporation on Tuesday said it has agreed long-term lease placements for 2 used Airbus A320-200 aircraft with Kanot Shark Airlines of Uzbekistan. With delivery scheduled for March, the planes will be the first 2 aircraft in the fleet of the Uzbek startup airline. ALC is pleased to announce this lease placement of 2 A320-200s with Kanot Shark Airlines, said AJ Abidin, Vice President Marketing of Air Lease Corporation. We have worked closely with the Kanot Shark executive team and are thrilled to participate in the launch of the first Uzbek startup airline through the placement of their first 2 aircraft. We are honored and excited to work with one of the largest aircraft leasing companies in the world to assist with the launch of our airline, said Nosir Abdugafar, owner of Kanot Shark Airlines. These 2 A320-200s are scheduled to deliver in March and will be the first 2 aircraft in Kanot Shark's fleet, ensuring the highest standard of safety and comfort for our passengers, he added. The International Monetary Fund has published a concluding statement following an official staff visit from January 25 to February 16, 2021. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a marked, but so far relatively short-lived, adverse impact on Uzbekistan's economy. Although the pandemic hit the economy hard in the first half of 2020 and inflicted considerable hardship, the recession was moderated by strong and timely containment and support measures, it said. This strong policy reaction allowed for a sharp rebound in activity in the second half of the year, while the agricultural and construction sectors showed resilience throughout the year. This resulted in Uzbekistan being among the few countries posting positive overall growth in 2020 at a rate of 1.6%. According to IMF, growth is expected to pick up further in 2021, but the level of uncertainty remains high and the recovery will depend especially on vaccine rollout. Moreover, the higher budget deficit this year can be offset by a gradual fiscal consolidation in subsequent years, although public and publicly guaranteed debt is still at a relatively moderate level. It reached almost 38% of GDP at the end of 2020, nearly double the level of a few years ago. It also commented on banking regulators' monetary policy, which, according to the fund, remains appropriate. Monetary policy should continue to focus on further reducing inflation while allowing exchange rate flexibility to further build credibility and better anchor inflation expectations. Under current policies, inflation is projected to continue to gradually decline to just under 10% by the end of 2021. The Russian Direct Investment Fund has confirmed registration of the anti-coronavirus vaccine Sputnik V in Uzbekistan, according to its statement on Wednesday. Sputnik V is currently one of the world's top 3 coronavirus vaccines in terms of the number of approvals issued by government regulators. The vaccine has been approved in Russia, Belarus, Argentina, Bolivia, Serbia, and other dozens of countries. Meanwhile, Uzbek company Jurabek Laboratories is expected to launch the production of the Chinese-Uzbek coronavirus vaccine ZFUZ-VAC 2001, according to the decision of the Special Republican Commission of Uzbekistan. The Uzbek company was selected by the Chinese side, taking into account its laboratory, technical, and production capacities. The Chinese vaccine is to be used for mass vaccination of the population. Negotiations are now underway to purchase 1 million doses. Up to 300 million doses of the vaccine could be delivered to the country by the end of the year. British educational institutions are launching joint training programs in the specialties of engineering at the Transport University, which will give Uzbek applicants and students the opportunity to enter European universities. This was offered by the representatives of the University of Portsmouth as well as Brookhouse College, where the famous football academy operates. Uzbekistan has adopted a new national social protection strategy for 2021-2030. The decree approves the roadmap for drafting the concept note as well as the composition of the Republican Working Group aimed at developing the national strategy. The concept note was implemented by the Ministry of Finance in cooperation with the UN Joint Program on Strengthening Social Protection in Uzbekistan.
According to the document, it is expected to contribute to the enhancement of the effectiveness of the social protection mechanisms through creating an institutional system. Besides, it is planned to increase the coverage of social protection, as well as to ensure access at all levels and simplifying the assistance process. Maternity and disability benefit schemes will be considered for inclusion in the social insurance system. Besides, it is projected to create a social insurance fund. It is expected that a full-fledged strategy will be developed in cooperation with the International Labour Organization, United Nations Children's Fund, and United Nations Development Programme within the framework of the UN Joint Programme on Strengthening Social Protection till November 1st, 2021. The strategy will include fiscal space analysis and costing exercise, as well as a midterm action plan for strategy implementation.
Tashkent held the third annual Female Farmers Forum that has been running in the Republic since 2018. The event saw leading Uzbekistan's female entrepreneurs, agro-industrial producers, and 36 field experts who shared their experiences on intensive planting and provided the farmers with tools needed to increase work efficiency.
The forum discussed measures on producing new crop varieties by crossbreeding and increasing yields. Participants also highlighted the challenges they face in the course of their activities. According to Gulnora Mahmudova, the chairperson of Uzbekistan's Businesswomen's Association, the agriculture training program attracted local specialists that trained over 1,000 women throughout the country. As a result, 160 women received loans. In addition, the program helped create 150 jobs.
The issue of citizenship in Uzbekistan has undergone some reforms, which were announced by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev as part of his address to the Oli Majlis. Citizens who arrived in Uzbekistan before January 1st, 2005 for permanent residence but without citizenship will be recognized as citizens of Uzbekistan. Today, in accordance with a state program of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, together with other ministries and departments, amendments and additions are being made to the law on citizenship. From May 1st, 2021, we'll start granting citizenship to persons who have been permanently residing in the country since 2005, as well as to those who have been living in the Republic for 15 years. They can apply to the district or city department of migration and citizenship registration at the place of residence with an application and other documents. About 20,000 stateless persons will receive citizenship of Uzbekistan starting from May 1st, 2021.
Congressional Democrats have begun discussions with the White House on ways to crack down on big tech. Their focus, holding social media companies accountable for the spread of disinformation, particularly in the wake of the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot. Democratic Representative Tom Malinowski, who sits on the House Homeland Security Committee, told Reuters he'd spoken to the White House about how to hold social media platforms accountable for amplifying radicalizing messages that trigger violence. It's a contentious topic surrounding a measure called Section 230, part of a 1996 law that shields social media platforms from lawsuits over content posted by users. And big tech desperately wants to keep Section 230 in place.
Without 230, platforms could potentially be held liable for everything that people say.
Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey both told congressional panels last year that Section 230 was essential not just to their businesses, but to free expression.
Section 230 is the most important law protecting internet speech, and removing Section 230 will remove speech from the internet.
But with the rapid rise of political misinformation, from baseless conspiracy theories to Russian political meddling to falsehoods tweeted from the Oval Office, Democrats are looking for ways to pressure big tech to throttle back on fake news.
Change is on the way, and I intend to bring aggressive
to thread. Democrats want to clamp down on falsehoods without playing censor. There is some Republican support for reforming Section 230, but for somewhat different reasons. Previous social media clampdowns on political misinformation have angered conservatives when their own accounts get slapped with warnings for sharing fake news. President Donald Trump raged when Twitter put fact-check labels on some of his tweets, removed others, and after the Capitol riot, suspended his account. Republicans, such as Representative Jim Jordan, accuse social media companies of unfairly censoring conservative viewpoints.
I'll just cut to the chase. Big tech's out to get conservatives.
Trump and other Republicans have seized on Section 230 as a way of stripping protections from companies they say aren't playing fair. The conversations between lawmakers and Biden aides represent the first sign that the White House has begun actively getting involved in considering how to take on big tech. The White House declined to comment on the discussions.
Millions of Texans braved their third day without heat on Wednesday, following a punishing winter storm that has killed at least 21 people across 4 states. Some Houston residents fled their homes with busted heating systems and water pipes and huddled together at the Gallery Furniture Store, which opened its doors as a warming center to people trying to escape the cold. The National Weather Service said historically low temperatures in the region would continue for days, and some Texas officials warned that the power outages were likely to persist. Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, the top official in the state's most populous county, which includes Houston, said the storms were straining not only the local electric grid, but triggering a cascade of effects, including lost water pressure, carbon monoxide poisoning, and halted COVID-19 vaccinations. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT, which operates the state's independent power grid, has come under increasing fire for the crisis, and Judge Hidalgo said she did not trust that it had a handle on the situation. Texas Governor Greg Abbott called for reforms and demanded that state lawmakers investigate ERCOT, which is not subject to federal oversight because it is not part of the national grid. On Tuesday, Abbott also pointed the finger at frozen wind turbines amid the massive grid failure.
FEMA has supplied generators to Texas.
On Wednesday, White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki said the federal government was deploying emergency resources to the state and pushed back against the blame being thrust on renewable energy sources.
There has been some inaccurate accusations out there that renewables caused failures in Texas's power grid. And actually, numerous reports have actually shown the contrary, that it was failures in coal and natural gas that contributed to the state's power shortages. And officials at the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, which operates the state's power grid, have gone so far as to say that failures in wind and solar were the least significant factors.
Many have blamed the power failures on a lack of preparedness, but the deregulated energy market in Texas gives little financial incentives for operators to prepare for the rare bout of intensely cold weather, an issue critics have been pointing out for years. Some are calling for additional efforts to winterize equipment, including wind turbines, which are routinely equipped with warming systems that stop ice buildup in states with colder climates.
The Myanmar military issued arrest warrants for 6 celebrities who were accused of encouraging civil servants to strike and join the protest against this month's coup. The strikes have paralysed many government offices and businesses, but one name on the warrant list, actor Lu Min, posted defiantly on his Facebook page that, quote, "It's amazing to see the unity of our people. People's power must return to the people." Despite junta appeals for civil servants to return to work and threats if they do not, there has been no sign of the strikes easing. Motorists in Yangon also continued with a campaign to show their opposition to the coup by driving at a snail pace throughout downtown traffic on Thursday. Last night, in the country's second largest city, Mandalay, security forces opened fire with rubber bullets on railway workers who had gone on strike earlier in the week. That's according to local residents. And one charity worker was wounded in the leg. Neither the army nor the police made any immediate comment on the incident, but the army's Facebook page said forces were providing security and, quote, to make sure people have tranquility and sound sleep. Nearly 500 people have been arrested for taking part in the protests. Australians woke to empty news feeds on their Facebook pages Thursday morning after the social media giant blocked all media content for users there. The surprise blackout comes after weeks of escalation between Australia's government and big tech over who pays for content. But it wasn't only news. Government health pages and emergency services have been scrubbed too. That sparked a storm of criticism online, given the information is vital at the height of Australia's bushfire season and amid the global health crisis. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg said the decision was wrong and heavy-handed.
But what today's events do confirm for all Australians is the immense market power of these media digital giants. These digital giants loom very, very large in our economy and on the digital landscape.
Facebook is responding to a new law expected to pass through Australia's Parliament within days. It would force them to pay local publishers for content, making Facebook and Google strike commercial deals with news outlets whose links drive traffic to their platforms. But Facebook's drastic reaction represents a split with Google. Both had campaigned against the law and threatened to pull services in Australia. Instead of going dark, though, Google has been signing its own preemptive deals with Australia's television networks and the likes of Rupert Murdoch's News Corp. Google declined to comment on Facebook's decision on Thursday. Facebook said in a statement the law, quote, fundamentally misunderstands the relationship between itself and publishers, and it faced a stark choice of attempting to comply or ban news content. They've argued that news outlets voluntarily post their article links on Facebook, which allows them to sell more subscriptions and grow their audiences.
Airbus says 2020 was the jet industry's most challenging crisis. On Thursday, the world's biggest maker of airliners posted an operating loss for the year of €510 million, or about $614 million. The global travel slump sparked a big restructuring at the firm, saddling it with hefty charges. There were costs too in shutting down its loss-making line of A380 Super Jumbos. Now the firm is wary about 2021, predicting no upturn in jet deliveries. It's also scrapped its dividend for a second year and slashed the value of planes it has on order, though it does expect adjusted operating profits to rise. But Thursday also saw fresh signs of just how tough life is for Airbus customers. Air France KLM says it will plunge to yet deeper losses before seeing a recovery. That as it posted an $8.5 billion net loss for 2020 and put back a key profitability goal. The group last year shed about 10% of its workforce and says another 6,000 jobs will go in the coming years. Now its future, and Airbus's too, hangs on a recovery in travel demand.
A rotation out of tech shares into cyclical stocks drove the Nasdaq lower but the Dow higher Wednesday. Big-name tech stocks like Apple and Nvidia weighed on the Nasdaq and S&P 500, as did concerns over inflation. Summit Place Financial Advisors President Liz Miller says investors are adjusting their portfolios as they lighten up on tech.
I think the slight negative tilt we're seeing is just that. There were a lot of gains last year, and investors are just digesting new information and the year-end result information to reposition for the rest of 2021.
The Nasdaq closed down more than 0.5%, and the S&P 500 ended just below the break-even line. But the Dow added a little over 0.25%. The blue chip index got a lift from Verizon and Chevron. Shares of the telecom and oil giants rose after Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway disclosed it had taken major stakes in both companies. Wells Fargo shares jumped 5%. A report said the Fed accepted the bank's proposal to overhaul its risk management and governance. The bank has been trying to recover from a sales scandal that emerged in 2016. Shopify shares slid more than 3%. The Canadian e-commerce giant that benefited from the online shopping surge last year hinted that revenue growth would slow in 2021 as people returned to stores.
These were the top headlines for today. Stay safe and goodbye.